guys, welcome back. So today we're out at the range to talk about the FAL, but more specifically an accessory for the FAL from the Cold War, from the Rhodesian War. And that's why I have this South American FAL that I've just kind of had the guys over at Copper slap some green paint on. This is actually Cerakote, and it's just kind of be a facsimile of the Rhodesian R1A1s that would have been used during that conflict. Now, this video isn't about the politics of Rhodesia. I know everybody likes to get in the comment section. Anytime a baby puke rifle shows up, they want to blow up the comment section with politics. This isn't about the politics of the war. This is just about the firearm, folks. So we're going to talk about this. This is a rifle of mine that I painted this way to look like a Rhodesian rifle. And on the end of it, this is what we want to talk about, which is the Halbek device. And this device was developed in South Africa and was supplied to Rhodesian militants to stick on their R1A1 rifles that were also manufactured in South Africa for the purposes of the war. The folks that were fighting the war in Rhodesia, they were under a lot of sanctions, a lot of political pressure from the world community, and so they had to be somewhat secretive. Many times they would deface the rifles, the markings on them, so there would be no manufacturer's markings and stuff like that, because they're trying to find sympathetic nations that would covertly send them weapons and material and stuff to continue their war. And so the Halbek device is part of that whole story, and it's a relatively interesting story to be told. And so today we're going to talk about this device right here. We'll take it off, do some shooting with it, explain what the purpose of it was, and we'll determine whether or not it actually works as it's intended. And we'll talk about the construction methods, all that stuff. It's a really, really interesting device, and it's really cool if you can find an original. There are clones out there. This one happens to be an original that I found many years ago, but there are clone manufacturers out there. There's some that are cast. This one's manufactured the original way, which is just a bunch of welded parts and all that good stuff. So we'll talk about all that in today's video, and then we'll show you a different FAL with a different muzzle device that this particular accessory does not work on. So let's get started with today's video, talking about the Halbek device and my favorite Cold War era rifle, the FAL. A lot of folks ask me, how can I get involved in the firearms business in that particular community? And one of the best ways to do that is to become a gunsmith. Every gunsmith I know is just overbooked with work. It's a very good living. And so if you would like to become a gunsmith, you need to go to a gunsmithing school or become an apprentice for an existing gunsmith. But Modern Gun School is an accredited college that also works with veterans in the GI Bill, where you can go and get a degree from accredited college in gunsmithing and then go out and start your own gunsmithing business, which I think is a really great option. Again, throughout my entire life, gunsmiths have always been able to earn a really good living, assuming they have a really strong work ethic. So please check out Modern Gun School. I do have a link in the video description below. When you guys think of an FAL, many folks are going to think of this particular configuration right here. This is a 50.0 match. This is manufactured by FN in Belgium, and this would be the kind of the classic style of rifle that most people, myself included, would think of in my mind's eye when somebody says FAL. Now, there's a bunch of different configurations of this rifle, right? We had para models, folding stocks, polymer stocks, wood stocks on the O1A1s, different muzzle devices. This is a classic muzzle device, very long flash suppressor that's also intended to mount a specific type of bayonet. But this is the rifle most would think of when they think of an FAL, depending on what region of the world you're in. This rifle is a different configuration, very similar to the one I just showed you. Again, this one's made in South America, but it has a different muzzle device on it. Now, this muzzle device was also very common. This muzzle device was intended to be used primarily with grenade launchers, but it's also, a flash suppressor of sorts and things like that, but it was designed primarily to launch NATO standard rifle grenades. So a couple of guys by the name of Douglas Hall and Marthenius Beck came up with the idea of a slip-on device that would go over this particular type of muzzle device that would help control the weapon better on full auto. It's also going to change the vectoring of gases in semi-auto, but it would be more pronounced that the muzzle device was actually doing something on full auto because of the rapid succession of shots. Now, this is a semi-auto, so I'm not going to be able to show you the device being used on a machine gun, but this is the device. And this is why they call it the Halbek. It's a little bit of Hall's last name, a little bit of Beck's last name. And this is an original device. Now, there are clones out there of the Halbek device. Some of them are cast. Others use the original construction methods like this, very crude welding. So if there's a good chance, even though they don't have any real markings on them, this one presumably is an original, but the clones use the same type of construction methods. Some of them that have been made available over the years, but they'll have very crude welds on them, a very rudimentary park type finish. just a bunch of stampings. And yeah, I mean, extremely crude. But this is correct for the Halbek device. Now, how does the device work? Well, if you take a look at the original grenade launching muzzle device, you'll see that it has ports drilled at the 12, 3, 9, and 6 o'clock position. What this device does, if you look at it, it blocks the port on the bottom. It's solid. It allows the 3 vent holes on the top to vent, push the barrel down, and then these side devices will capture the gases vectoring from the 3 and 9 o'clock position and vent them outwards at an angle. All right, so the whole purpose of this is to block off the bottom ports, revector the gases coming out the other sets of holes, and push that muzzle device down, which would help control the rifle better on full auto or rapid semi-automatic fire. The FAL is a 7.62x51 NATO, commonly referred to as 308 here in the United States, and it does have a little bit of recoil to it. Now, the rifles themselves, because they're gas operated, they're fairly heavy, right around 10 pounds. They don't have a whole lot of recoil to begin with. So it's really a training issue how you would effectively use a rifle like this, either in rapid semi-automatic succession firing shots or even with full auto. Keep in mind, many militaries and paramilitary units would disable the full auto features on rifles like the FAL, the M1, or I'm sorry, the M14 and guns like that, simply because green troops and not properly trained troops simply couldn't control them. It was just a waste of ammunition. And ammunition is something you don't want to be wasting in a gunfight. And so that's why devices like this were invented, right? To try to help control the rifle and compensate for the lack of training. So how well does it work? Well, we'll talk about that here in a moment. The device mounts very simply. It has the lever on it. It has this little ball on the lever, and this will engage with one of the ports in the muzzle device and keep it from rotating. So in essence, all you have to do is just slide it over the muzzle device till it stops, rotate this lever down, that ball will engage with one of the ports, and then you just take this little clip and pop it over the barrel. And that's it. And so very easy to put on, very easy to take back off. Just a very, very simple device, both simple in function and simple in construction. So let's mount this thing up, do a little bit of shooting with it, take it off, do some more shooting with it, and see if this thing really does what it's supposed to. Get in there. There we go. All right. Load up some magazines with some Federal ammunition. They supply the ammunition free of charge to the channel. I want to thank them for doing it. Love their ammo. We'll load some of their ammo up into the magazine, head outside, do a little shooting. All right, so I have 10 rounds of ammunition loaded up. We have the Halbek device on the rifle. Going to do a little bit of shooting with it on there and with it off and see if we can determine how effective the muzzle device is, and I'll report back to you about the recoil impulse change. All right, so with the device, all right, we'll take the device off, put a few more rounds in the magazine, and give it another try. All right, so the device is off. Got some more ammunition loaded up. Let's see how she shoots. All right, so my perception is that with the device on, it feels like I'm getting more recoil to my shoulder, but the muzzle device seems to be going down, not rising like I'm normally used to. Without the muzzle device on, the typical recoil impulse is about the same. It doesn't feel as abrupt to the shoulder, and it's just doing the regular muzzle rise that I am used to and used to compensating for. So it's definitely making a difference. Is it something that I would use on the rifle? Probably not, because I'm so used to shooting the FAL without it. But would it help a novice? Possibly. Would it help on full auto? Maybe. Now, I've seen other videos out there, like from Forgotten Weapons, where they have put it on a fully automatic FAL, and it seemed like it was pushing the barrel down. When things went brrr, it was like pushing the muzzle down, and that's not desirable. That's just recoil in a different direction. It's just as hard to control. So with semi-automatic, I didn't see that violent of a push down, but I certainly felt a difference in the recoil impulse and the muzzle rise. So it does something. But again, I don't think I'd put it on my rifle. Yeah, definitely more punch to the shoulder. And it seems like for me, it's kind of walking to the right versus up, but you can also put this on at different positions on the muzzle device, so you can put it off to an angle like that if you're so inclined. But then, in my opinion, it's going to do one of these. So, yeah, I don't know. It's neat to have if you're trying to do a clone build. I mean, clone builds are definitely a thing, right? And that's the whole reason I painted this one the way I did. But so for that purpose, it's pretty good. But would I recommend this if you run an FAL as your go-to rifle or whatever? I don't think so. I'd forgo it. I really don't think it's doing much. Or you could pick up a different muzzle device that's out there. There's a bunch of different good muzzle devices out there, and fit your rifle with one of those. You'd have more effective muzzle device, I believe. But it's interesting. Again, perfect for a clone build. Not sad that I have it. It's just something I'll just leave on this rifle and probably not shoot a whole lot. All right, guys, hopefully you found this video interesting. If you haven't heard of the Halbek device, comment down below. What do you think about it? Really very interesting device for sure, but again, not all that practical in my mind. If you'd like to support us here at the Military Arms Channel, the best way to do that is to become part of our Patreon family. There's a link in the video description below. Also, right here on YouTube, you got the thanks and subscribe buttons. Click either one of those buttons. You can help support us here on YouTube in the age of demonetization. Last but not least, please swing by, check out Copper Custom. Thank you for 16 years of support. We'll talk to you guys soon.